Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video, doing GWV Sunday Round Up for today's second video. So this could be your Sunday afternoon eclectic mix of this and that. We're going to be talking about things like solar activity, sea surface temperature, anomalies, what's happening with ENSO, Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, and of course the weather for the next week to 10 days and beyond. So sit back and enjoy. The first video today was a very big video. It's the winter 2019-2020 NAO forecast. So that video is on homepage at GWV.com, and this evening that video will be placed on a still to be created page for winter 2019-2020 updates. So I haven't got that page created yet, but it will be created later on today at GWV's, and video will go on that page, so you'll be able to watch the video on demand at the website whenever you want. And also have a read of written summary that will be put with the video. So that'll be this evening. 5 o'clock though, before I do that, I've got a live chat coming up on GWV's YouTube channel for about an hour or so. We're going to talk about the NAO forecast. I'll be taking your questions and that sort of thing. So that'll be on GWV's YouTube channel this evening at 5 o'clock, a live sort of event going on about the NAO forecast. So if you've got any questions about it, then get them to me, and of course you can ask questions about anything else as well, summer, whatnot, but also if you've got any questions about that NAO forecast and about the coming winter, then do get messaging in the live discussion at 5 o'clock this evening. Right, so better get on with this then, if I've got that to do, and we're going to start off by having a look at the latest observations from xcweather.co.uk. Much cooler day out there. Cold front, as expected, pushed across the country last night, freshened things up. So after all of that stifling heat that we had down in the southeast yesterday, it's a much more comfortable day. Here are our latest temperatures. We've got 20 degrees flashing away across many eastern parts of the country, which at 10:08 isn't too bad actually. It is going to be another relatively warm day, I have to say. Temperatures in the far southeast will probably reach around 25 this afternoon. Somewhere like central London, that's 77 Fahrenheit, which is still a bit above average, to be honest, for the end of June. But it certainly feels a lot fresher, and further north and west the temperatures are much closer to average. Got these weather stations up here, Loch Glasnock, for example, at 13 degrees. So it's much cooler in the north and west. It's still pretty warm in the southeast, but it's a lot cooler and fresh compared to yesterday, and all round just a much more comfortable feel. And we're going to keep these more comfortable temperatures going for the next few days. Few signs that the weekend could see a bit of a warm up though, not to the sort of extent of heat I don't think that we had yesterday, but nevertheless could see temperatures going back up into the upper 20s Celsius in the coming weekend. More about that in the second part of the video. Right, so solar activity then next. This is how the solar disk is looking on our side this day from solarham.net. We have just one tiny little sunspot region just there. Otherwise, the solar disk is virtually spotless. Solar activity is at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. This is how the solar activity tracker is looking. This is updated up to today by a good friend James Ackrill. So a big thanks to James for updating this. So we've been for a long run of, if you remember, of spotless activity. Started back in May and has more or less carried on to the end of June. Although the orange line is depicting each individual day's sunspot numbers. And you can see that we have, over the past couple of days, had some minimal levels of sunspots. So that ended that run of spotlessness, but went on for over a month. I had a month of spotlessness. That ended. Not yet enough, really, to lift the trend lines up very much. So they've been on the floor of the tracker over the past couple of weeks due to the month of spotlessness that we had. You see the thick green and thick red lines. They have sort of lifted up off the floor a little bit, especially that red line. But basically, they're still trading at a really, really low level. This this sort of little sunspot that we had just there a couple of days ago, not enough to lift the trend lines up off the floor of the chart yet. So of course, we're at very low levels of solar activity. We're expecting to remain at very low levels of solar activity for the next few weeks and months, because we're at solar minimum. Don't know yet when true solar minimum will be occurring, but it is likely to be sort of within the next 6 to 9 months, something like that. So it might be this year, it could be early next year. But certainly, I think now we're within a year of solar minimum. So we shall wait and see, and then we'll go off into solar cycle number 25. By the way, a couple of people have asked me about when the next Solar Sunday is going to be. So we don't do them when we're doing the winter updates, which will begin at the beginning of September and run through the autumn. So the reason for that is that solar activity makes up a big part of the winter update. So we monitor solar activity on a week-by-week basis. But we do like to get a Solar Sunday in sometime during the summer. So we will probably do one more Solar Sunday for this year, either in July or August. Haven't got the date penciled in yet, but we certainly want to do one final sort of Solar Sunday before we go off into the winter update. So just watch this space on that, but probably it'll be either July or maybe early August. Big thank you to James for sending through the solar tracker, and of course we'll be keeping an eye on that over the next few weeks. And then we go on to sea surface temperature anomalies. So we've got our 3 specific areas of interest. We've got the ENSO region just here. We've got the Northern Pacific up here, and then we've got the North Atlantic over there. That's how the oceans were looking when we did last week's GWV Sunday Round Up. Let's go through to the very latest and see what's happened. Well, first of all, in terms of the ENSO region, has been very little change. We did the ENSO update on Friday night, and we said that we remain kind of like on a border somewhere between ENSO neutral on the warm side and ENSO neutral on one side and a very weak El Nino. That continues to be the case. Going a little bit cooler over here in the eastern portion of the equatorial Pacific, and you will notice, we pointed this out when we did the ENSO update, you will notice that colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies are gathering off the coast of Chile. That can sometimes be a precursor to a cold event, to La Nina. I don't think there's enough there yet to say that this will go to a cold event, but keep an eye on it. It's possible that could be the first signs that the weak El Nino that we've been in for a few months now is about to come to an end. Up in the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, it's very, very warm now in this northeastern corner of the Pacific Ocean, up towards sort of North America and Canada, Alaska, that sort of area. Very, very warm in that corner. So that's been pretty warm on and off over the past few years, really since the Super Nino that we had in 2015, 2016. It's normally quite a cold place up there, so quite what's going on over the past few years. I'm not sure why it's turned so warm up there. We have probably entered into the warm phase of the PDO, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, but even with that, you would normally expect at least some years to go quite cold up there. So really, really warm sea surface temperature anomalies over there. And then in the North Atlantic, well, look what's going on up there, pointed out in the NAO forecast. Of course, we've got a tripole now. Really, we've got a warmer than average area sea surface temperature anomalies here to the south of Greenland. We have got colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies underneath it, and then the tropical Atlantic is looking pretty warm as well. So we seem to have found our way into an Atlantic tripole, which is the first time we've seen that for a very long time. I'll talk much more about this in the live event. We'll get the screen share going in the live event. We'll go through some of these anomaly maps. So in the live chat, I'll show you when the last time was that I think we actually had a tripole in the Atlantic, but it's quite some time ago. Anyway, there we go. It looks like we've got a tripole, and particularly warm to the south of of green. It's been very cold up here over the past few years on and off, but it's certainly gone much warmer up there recently. When you've got a tripod, it's a signature for a negative NAO. Now, I've been in a negative NAO for quite some time now. We'll talk about that in a moment. It's like a chicken and an egg, this. Is it the sea surface temperature anomalies that are driving us into a negative NAO? Or is it the negative NAO? Is it the pattern that's driving the sea surface temperature anomalies? It's very difficult to know which is leading the other. But in any case, the Atlantic Ocean very much reflecting the negative NAO that we have got at the moment and have been in for quite some time. Southern Oscillation Index, this is an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state in the southern Pacific Ocean. So it's measuring the air pressures between Tahiti and Darwin. When the SOI is negative, then the atmospheric state is reflective of El Nino. When the SOI is positive, the atmospheric state is reflecting La Nina. We go through some pretty negative days at the moment with the SOI. So this is kind of like shifting more towards an El Nino side of things. You have a 22nd of June coming out an exceptionally negative, minus 42.04. 23rd of June at minus 18. Coming up to 27th of June, that went down to minus 30. 28th of June went down to minus 27. 29th of June went down to minus 25. So some really negative numbers over the past week or two, telling us that the atmospheric state in the Southern Ocean has been very much reflective of El Nino. And if this goes on, we would actually expect to see the El Nino signature kind of like powering up, if anything, through the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We will see the sea surface temperature anomalies warming up there if this sort of negativity of the SOI continues, with the atmosphere very much reflecting a strong El Nino state. It's interesting that these very negative SOI numbers, it's off on a bit of a tangent really, I should be going on video, but just want to mention this. It's interesting that these very negative SOI numbers, so this sort of atmospheric state that's very strongly reflective of El Nino that we've had over the past week or two, has coincided with the exceptionally hot weather in western and central parts of Europe. Now, if you go back to February, you'll remember that something very similar happened in late February. We had a crash in the SOI. So the SOI went into the atmospheric state went into a very strong El Nino type setup. At the same time, Western, Northern and Central Europe have very, very unusually warm weather in late February. And kind of like the same thing has happened as we've gone into late June. Now, it could be that that's just a coincidence. But it's quite interesting that as the atmosphere goes into a strong El Nino state in the Southern Ocean twice, late February, late June, both times we have seen unusual warmth coming into central and western parts of Europe, particularly so, of course, particularly hot through France, but also Low Countries, Germany, Spain, Italy. All of those sort of areas have had very unusually hot temperatures over the past week or so, at the same time as we've had this dive in the SOI, this crash in the SOI. As I say, it could be a coincidence, but it's happened twice now this year, so maybe there's a connection there. They say that Europe doesn't have much connection to El Nino, to ENSO. It's something that's more of a drive, if you like, in the southern hemisphere, and also for North America and Canada, because they're right next to the Pacific Ocean. But anyway, we can only present the data. That's what the data shows. Twice now this year, we've seen a crash in the SY coinciding with abnormally warm weather in the west of Europe, February, and again in June. Just want to show you this. So we're basically snow-free now across Eurasia. Still got a little patch of snow just there, but essentially it's now snow-free away from mountainous areas across Russia and Siberia, as you would expect by the end of June. That's what you would expect to see, and it'll stay snow-free now until September. The first little patches of snow will begin to appear across the Siberian plain sometime in September, and then of course the whole lot will get covered up with snow as we go through into October and November. One of the things that we look at within the winter updates is how quickly that snow line advances across Russia and Siberia. So obviously we'll be keeping a very close eye on that in the winter update starting in September. Arctic oscillation next. So we remain in this prolonged negative phase of the Arctic oscillation. So the black line here shows where we've been with the AO, the red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. We entered into the negative phase of the Arctic oscillation around early April, that dive in the AO from there to there. And apart from a few days which have gone a little bit positive or up towards neutral, we've basically been in the negative phase of the AO ever since. So that's where we are right now. We're negative still. Going to pop up to positive or pop up to neutral really in the next day or so, and then back to negative Arctic oscillation again as we go through the first half of July, as indicated by those GFS ensemble forecasts. So when you've got a negative AO, you've got high pressure up over. Remember, it's always the weather that drives the index. So you've got high pressure over the North Pole or somewhere in the northern latitudes, Greenland, something like that. And you'll be driving the AO into negative territory because you've got that high pressure blocking up over the North Pole. At the same time, as I said a few minutes ago, the NAO has also been in a prolonged negative phase. Again, we entered the negative phase of the North Atlantic oscillation back in April. The whole of May and the whole of June, 2 months now, continuously negative with the NAO, which is something that we haven't seen for a very long time. Again, we know we've got that response in with the sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic as well. Is it the weather pattern that's sent those sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic to a tripole, or is it the Atlantic itself that's driven the weather pattern? Again, it's very difficult to know. It's kind of like a chicken and an egg. It's very difficult to know which is leading which, but what we can say is that we are still within this prolonged negative phase of the North Atlantic oscillation. That's where we are right now, and we're expecting to stay within this prolonged phase of the NAO through the first half of July. There's no sign of a return into positive territory through July yet. So the AO, the NAO staying negative. Normally that would be a pretty bad sign in the summer. When you've got both of those indexes negative in the summer, it would normally be a sign of cool and wet weather. Of course, we have had a lot of that through June. It's only in the past week that things have turned a lot drier and hotter. But June actually has been quite an unsettled, cool, wet month on the whole for the UK. So maybe that's the kind of conditions we'll be going back to as we go into July. We'll have a look at the forecast charts in a moment. Actually, these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Northampton, local to me. So the temperature is still coming down. Of course, yesterday it was up around here, so the temperature is still a bit above average today in terms of the upper air temperature. It's coming down a lot. By tomorrow and the early part of the coming week, we actually go a bit cooler than average. However, into the weekend, we have got signs of a bit of a warm-up taking place. So it's not going to get anywhere near as hot as it was yesterday, but it does look like it's going to get pretty warm again over the weekend. Temperature probably up to around sort of upper 20s Celsius, into the 80s Fahrenheit on Saturday, Sunday. And then probably dropping back again as we go through into the second week of July. That's this period just here. You will notice there is a very, very hot outlier member there appearing within the GFS ensembles right at the very end. That's kind of like mid-July. So, I mean, that's an outlier. It's on its own. It's broken away completely from the pack. But that ensemble member is doing something very similar to the weather that we've had across Western Europe over the past week, pulling up excessive heat out of Africa and pushing it northwards into west of Europe. At the moment, that's just an outlier, so to be pretty much discounted, but sometimes outliers can be trendsetters, and as we've already had one of these sort of heat spikes across the west of Europe, I suppose we've got to be on the lookout for sort of more of that over the next few weeks. That would tie in with GWV summer 2019 forecast, of course, which suggested that as the summer goes on, the threat of hotter weather grows, with August looking in the summer forecast like it's going to be the hottest month of the summer. Precipitation-wise, loads of dry weather until the weekend. Next week looking more unsettled, but again, that's extended range stuff, so it's in within the unreliable time frame of the GFS and its ensembles. Temperature anomalies from the 30th of June to the 8th of July. For the north, a little bit cooler than average. For England and Wales, actually a little bit warmer than average. You'll notice it looks very cool over Scandinavia and western parts of Europe. They're going to have very cool weather up there. We do have people watching from Scandinavia, and that doesn't look very summer-like at all. You're going to be sitting under a big trough at the end of this coming week, and that's going to bring very cool air out of the North Pole down into Scandinavia and Western Europe and Western Russia. But for western parts of Europe, actually, it still looks quite warm. France, Spain, Portugal, still warmer than average, just not as excessively so as it's been in the last few days. Precipitation anomalies are looking quite dry from the 30th of June to the 8th of July, generally drier than average for much of Northern Europe, actually, the UK and Ireland is included in that. Over in America, quite a warm scene, actually, for many parts of the states. For far north, towards Canada and some of these midwestern areas, a little bit cooler. But over in the west of America and in the east, it's generally on the warmer than average side. Precipitation anomalies varying from state to state. Very dry over on the western side of the states. Otherwise, I suppose, probably a little bit unsettled away from this southeastern corner. That's how the GFS is looking for Wednesday. High pressure's ridging in across the country on Wednesday, bringing a lot of dry and warm weather with it. Temperatures are going to be very pleasant in the coming week. Around the middle part of the week, we see temperatures kind of like low to mid-20s. Nice and cool and fresh by night. And plenty of dry and sunny weather too. Going to be a really nice mid-week period. Now, as you get towards the end of the week, this high pressure just becomes more centrally located over the country, starts to drift a little bit further eastwards, and that allows hotter air to begin to move back up from the south again. So next weekend, we do see the temperature starting to lift up, not to the extreme that we had yesterday. Don't think we'll be seeing 34 degrees next weekend, but probably to upper 20s at the outside, maybe 30 somewhere like central London. So going back to the 80s Fahrenheit anyway next weekend. Of course, the coming week is going to be the first week of Wimbledon. Looks like they're going to have a really nice week. Could be completely dry throughout the whole week actually at Wimbledon, I think. There are the upper air temperatures for next Sunday, a week's time. So you'll notice it is turning pretty hot again across France. Again, not as extreme as it has been. Have to keep re-emphasising that. But pretty hot across France. And even into the south and southeast, we're bringing the 15 Celsius isotherm in. So, yes, that could get temperatures up to upper 20s to possibly 30 degrees by this time next week. Might go a bit thundery though just after that. That's Monday the 8th. There's some sort of trough then over England and Wales. That could give thunderstorms perhaps. And then head up towards day 10. Looks like we begin to move low pressure in off the Atlantic. So it does turn more unsettled there through the second week of July. Only temporarily though, and then the high pressure's bridging back in again. So as we go towards the middle part of July, we've got high pressure up over Scandinavia, low pressure is out to west. So that's the kind of pattern that could pull up some pretty hot air from the south. GM, the Canadian model, again, we've got this ridge building through the country on Wednesday, looking mostly dry, fine and settled through the middle and latter part of the week. As the high pressure starts to drift away eastwards next weekend, we start to allow hotter air to move back up from the south again. And then as we get up towards day 10, there are the upper air temperatures for Monday, the 8th of July. Actually looking quite hot for England and Wales with the GM. But as we get towards day 10, it's breaking down quickly again as low pressure and cooler air heads in off the Atlantic. Although by day 10, there we go again. We're only see the Wednesday the 10th of July, and we're beginning to build up another little bit of a ridge. So very gradually, very incrementally, we're possibly starting to move our way into quite a warm sort of summer pattern here. And it's happening quite slowly, but these ridges are continuously starting to appear within model output now. When these ridges build up, they allow warm air to come up from the south. So slowly, we're possibly moving into that warm summer pattern that we always expected with regards to this summer forecast. We shall see. That's the ECM. Again, high pressure ridging in across the country the middle part of the week. Doesn't make it eastwards though with the ECM, so this is a different solution for next weekend. Actually, we're pulling down pretty chilly northwesterlies, so the pattern for next weekend is not sorted out yet. ECM wants us to be a lot cooler next weekend with the wind in from the north and high pressure generally sitting to our west. That's that trough over Scandinavia that I was talking about. That's going to bring very cool air into Scandinavia and western parts of Europe, bring that in from the north. As we get up towards day 10 with the ECM, again looking very different, a lot more unsettled, particularly to the north and to the west, and massively increasing the northern blocking signal as well. I think that's the difference with the ECM compared to the other models. The ECM has a much stronger signal for northern blocking over Greenland. That again would tie in with what we're seeing with the sea surface temperature anomalies at tripole. So that's a little bit ominous actually by the time you get through to day 10. That could be setting up a much cooler and a much wetter pattern as we're heading up towards the middle part of July. A lot of uncertainty about this second week of July still within the model output. Finally, just having a look at CFS V2. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 30th of June to the 6th of July. The coming week with above average heights over and just the west of the country, below average heights over Scandinavia. That's that trough I just talked about, bringing unusually cool and unsettled weather through to Scandinavia and western parts of Europe. We're mainly dry. The wind's in from the northwest, so it's cooler and fresh. But we're close to high pressure, so there will be a lot of dry weather to enjoy. Week 2, 7th to 13th of July, has a high pressure just out to our west. The trough is still there over Scandinavia. So we're doing something like that with the flow and with the jet. Again, a lot of dry weather. We're close to the ridge of high pressure. But temperatures, if anything, could be a little bit cool. That's week 3, which is the 14th to the 20th of July. Mid-Atlantic ridge then, with high pressure heading up towards Greenland as well. So again, that's probably mainly dry, but it is cool. Winds probably going into the north. And then we finish up in week 4, which is the 21st to 27th of July, again with high pressure sitting out to our west. So this is looking like a pretty dry July, because all the time the Atlantic is blocked off. We don't see much low pressure, but it does look quite cool, I have to say. It would be quite a cool month if that came off. So cool and dry is an unusual combination in the summer. Typically in the summer, if it's dry, it will be hot, and if it's wet, it will be cool. But sometimes you do get variations on that. We can get cool and dry summer months. I think July 1981 was a bit like that. Maybe July and August 1993 also a little bit like that. So it does happen at times that you can get variations of the expected norms. And if that came off anyway, it would be a rather cool and dry July that we'd be seeing there. This is how July is shaping up overall with the CFS V2 today. So it hasn't. This is 700 millibar height anomaly for July. Has above average height sitting out to the west of the country and up to the northwest too. Trough of low pressure in over Scandinavia. So again, that's reflective of that rather cool dry pattern I was just talking about. Temperature anomalies are ever so slightly above average, but essentially it's close to average. Really, notice a very cool July being forecast for Scandinavia. So not a great month for them, if that's right. Precipitation anomalies, as usual, just coming out close to average. So certainly the first week of July is looking quite dry, I think. Going to be a lot of dry weather coming up in the next few days. And temperature probably close to average initially, could get quite warm next weekend, although between the GFS, the GEM and the ECM there's quite a bit of uncertainty about next weekend actually. ECM is much cooler and much more unsettled compared to the other two. And then that uncertainty just increases really as we go into the second week of July. So it should all work itself out, and we shall wait and see what happens there. Right, don't forget to check out the winter 2019-2020 NAO forecast. The video is on the homepage at gavsweathervids.com, and later on today that video will be placed on a soon to be created page for winter 2019-2020 updates and eventually forecasts, and I'll get that up for you this evening. But before then, there's going to be a live chat on the YouTube channel at 5 o'clock this evening. We'll be discussing the NAO forecast, and we'll have a look at some of those sea surface temperature anomaly maps as well. I'll take your questions, as many as I can. Anyway, I'll be embedding the video to Gav's Weather Vids and also into our social media accounts, so you'll be able to follow it. I'll probably only take questions at YouTube though, because I'm doing this solo, and it's very difficult to hop from website to website checking people's questions. So if you've got a question, you can try to funnel that through YouTube. That would be really helpful. Right, that's it for Sunday Roundup, and I'll be back at 5 o'clock with a live chat on the YouTube channel. That's all for now though, and thanks for watching.